We've covered Seattle, we've covered Bellevue, now it's Kirkland's turn. And Kirkland did something neither of these cities did. It said yes to the state law and then attached a bill. If you own a home in Kirkland, the rules on your lot just changed. But there's a deadline inside this ordinance that most homeowners don't know about, and it changes the math on what your property is worth right now versus 6 months from right now. I'm going to break all of it down. For those who are new here, I'm Kenny. I've been a real estate broker and investor in the greater Seattle and King County market for 16 years. I specialize in off-market development deals, and this is part of my ongoing series breaking down how the new state housing law is changing what your property is worth right now. Same foundation as the other videos in this series. In 2023, Washington State passed House Bill 1110, the Middle Housing Law. Every major city in the state had to comply, no exceptions. Kirkland's deadline was June 30th, 2025. They adopted Ordinance O-4905 on June 17th, 2025, 13 days before the deadline. Here's what we're covering: what Kirkland actually adopted and what they left out, the one affordability requirement that none of the other cities did, the transit situation and what it means for your specific lot, and the deadline inside this ordinance that creates a real window for sellers right now. Let me give you the context first. Kirkland isn't new to this conversation. Back in 2020, years before House Bill 1110, Kirkland already legalized duplexes, triplexes, and cottage housing. Most cities were still fighting over this concept. Kirkland had already done it. So when the state mandate came down, Kirkland wasn't starting from zero, but the state still required more units, more types, and less red tape. Here's the housing context that matters. As of late 2025, the median sale price in Kirkland is right around $1.1 million. That's down from the highs we saw in 2024, but this is still one of the most expensive housing markets in King County. And King County's AMI, area median income for a 4-person household, is $147,000. An ARC study found that middle housing built under House Bill 1110 would still be priced out of reach for most lower and middle income families, which is exactly why Kirkland did something that Seattle and Bellevue didn't. Let's talk about what's actually in the ordinance. First, the density tiers. Same as Seattle and Bellevue, 4 units by right everywhere. Every residential lot in Kirkland, no permit required. 6 units near major transit, specifically within a quarter-mile walking distance of a major transit stop. Right now, Kirkland's qualifying major transit stop is STRIDE Bus Rapid Transit Station at Northeast 85th. That interchange is currently under construction and the BRT stop is set to open in 2026. The RapidRide K Line is coming too, but that's a 2030 opening. Construction starts in 2028. When it opens, it adds more stops. Totem Lake, downtown Kirkland, South Kirkland Park and Ride. More stops mean more lots that qualify for 6 units. If you're near the Northeast 85th corridor right now, you're already in the 6-unit zone. If you're near where the K Line is going, you will be in a few years. Now here's where Kirkland went down a different direction. Housing type. Seattle allows all 9 middle housing types. Bellevue allows all 9. Kirkland allows only 6. The city council voted to adopt the state minimum and explicitly rejected 5-plexes, 6-plexes, and courtyard apartments from low density zones. What is allowed? Duplexes, triplexes, 4-plexes, townhomes, stacked flats, cottage housing. That's it for low density neighborhoods. The 3 types that got cut are the ones that allow higher units per building. So Kirkland is the most conservative of the 3 cities we've covered in this series, but there's a wrinkle, and it's the most important detail in this entire ordinance. Here's the wrinkle. Kirkland attached an affordable housing requirement to the middle housing law. 10% of all new residential units must be affordable to households earning 80% of area median income. Seattle has voluntary bonuses. Bellevue has a fee in lieu option. Kirkland made it mandatory, and they extended it into low density zones, the single family neighborhoods where it had never applied before. Now there are exemptions. The requirement doesn't kick in for the first 2,500 square feet of a dwelling unit, and small additions don't trigger it. There's also a payment in lieu option. A developer can pay a fee instead of building the affordable unit. But here's the critical detail. This requirement requirement doesn't take effect until June 30th, 2026. That means any development that gets permitted before that date is not subject to the affordability requirement, and that has a direct effect on what developers will pay for a Kirkland lot right now versus after that date. For Kirkland homeowners who've been thinking about selling, this is the timing detail that matters most. Developers who are pricing your lot today are doing the math without the affordability requirement. After June 30th, 2026, that math changes. The window where your lot is worth the most to a builder is right now. Let's cover ADUs and parking quickly because Kirkland made some notable moves here. Under the new ordinance, Kirkland allows 2 ADUs per lot, each at least 1,000 square feet. And here's the change that matters. ADU height restrictions are gone. They can now reach the same maximum height as the primary dwelling unit. That's a meaningful change for anyone thinking about building above a garage. ADUs are also now exempt from frontage improvement requirements, which was one of the biggest hidden cost drivers in ADU construction. On parking, Kirkland took a pretty aggressive position. 0 parking spaces required for ADUs, 0 for units within a half a mile of major transit, 0 for units 1,200 square feet or smaller, 0 for designated affordable units. For other middle housing outside of those categories, the requirement is just 0.5 spaces per unit. That's lower than what Bellevue adopted. Lower parking requirements mean more of your lot is available for living space, which generally improves the economics for anyone building or partnering. I want to give you the political read because it matters for phase 2. The opposition in Kirkland organized hard. A group called Cherish Kirkland distributed yard signs warning of, quote, 4 to 6 story housing on this street. They called their state of anti-growth candidates the sanity slate. They lost. In the November 2025 elections, pro-housing candidates won 3 out of 4 races. 2 incumbents had supported the middle housing reforms were re-elected, including Kirkland's deputy mayor. A pro-housing candidate also won the open seat, defeating the opposition's candidate. What the election results mean for you? The city has already announced phase 2, middle housing optimization. Starting in 2026 with the pro-housing council majority, that process is likely to expand what's allowed, not contracted. The 6 housing types could be more. The transit distance trigger could widen. The current code again looks like a floor. What does all this mean for you as a Kirkland homeowner? Your neighborhood is changing. Not overnight, not dramatically, but the legal framework has shifted. The lot next to yours can now support a duplex, a triplex, a cottage cluster. That was not true 2 years ago. What does it mean for property values? Same honest answer I give every time. It doesn't automatically make your property worth more overnight. What it does is create a new category of buyer, builders and developers, who are now looking at lots in Kirkland through a different lens. And in a market where the median is 1.1 million, the land value conversation is significant. So your 3 plays. Play 1, build an ADU or middle housing unit. Kirkland removed the height limits and the frontage requirements. The cost and complexity just went down. Start with the feasibility check. Lot size, zone, transit proximity, and setbacks. Play 2, partner with the developer. You bring the land, they bring the build. Structure a deal for cash or a unit or a percentage. Use an attorney. This works in Kirkland right now because developers are actively sourcing lots ahead of the June 2026 affordability deadline. Play 3, sell at development value. Most Kirkland homeowners still list as standard resale. They don't factor in what a builder would pay based on what the lot can now support. That gap between retail price and development value is real money. One note on HOAs. Same situation as Bellevue. Kirkland issues building permits regardless of your private covenants. If your HOA restricts multifamily and you build anyway, the city permits it, but your neighbors can still sue you. This is an unresolved law in Washington. If you're in an HOA, get an attorney first. And if you're in an HOA situation and you've already decided you just want out, that's a different conversation. And honestly, it's simpler than most people think. A couple things before I let you go. First, if you want to know exactly where your Kirkland property stands under the new rules, I have a free build versus partner versus sale snapshot. Your zone tier, transit proximity, and 2 clear paths forward based on your specific lot. Comment snapshot below or grab the link in the description. Second, if you're in the sale camp and you want to know what your Kirkland lot is actually worth to a developer right now, not Zillow, what a builder would actually pay before that June deadline, comment lot below. I work off-market deals on the east side and I'll take a personal look. And drop a comment. Are you in Kirkland proper or somewhere nearby like Redmond, Juanita, Totem Lake? And I want to know which part of this series has been most useful, Seattle, Bellevue, or Kirkland. That feedback shapes what I cover next. Also, my ADU checklist is still available. 7 things to verify before you talk to a builder. Comment ADU and I'll send it over. That's it for today. See you on the next one.